Good morning, JP. How are you doing today?
I am delightfully delusional, and I'm happy about that. So that's it's a great improvement over what I used to be, I'd imagine. So, and super happy to be here, invited onto your beautiful podcast, my friend.
Thank you so much for coming on. I know your time's valuable and you got many calls coming up. So, well, let's get started. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are? Because when I first learned about you, it was through the Facebook video series, the Ultra
Hmm.
Spiritual that you did, which I was like, oh my God, this guy is super awesome. He's so funny. And then I later learned about you through Chef Lance Roll, that you are
Oh yeah.
an emotional coach and emotional healer. I'm like, huh, okay. I thought he was just a comedian. So please share a little bit about your story.
Yeah, I kind of confuse myself with who I am and what I do. But nonetheless, some of like who I am in a sense of like roles that I play, things that I do. I've been doing emotional healing coaching for past 15 years or so. I'm a YouTuber. As you mentioned, I've got a comedy video series, the Ultra Spiritual Life series, as well as other videos, sincere life advice. So I've got the videos. I've got a book coming out. So I'm an author. I do a lot of speaking and performing. And yeah, sometimes it confuses people and myself where people ask like, okay, JP, the comedy stuff, like, are you a comedian or are you serious? Are you an emotional healing coach? And it's like, I'm both. And it's taken me a while to actually accept and find space in my life for both, to give myself permission to be both. And what I'm realizing is, first off, it's both are authentic to me. And what I'm realizing is that it's kind of like having a left hand and a right hand. Like, they're complementary, but they're also very different. One's very left hand and one's very. So yeah, I've got both of those. But bottom line of what I stand for, whether it's comedy videos, sincere videos, working with clients, teaching, whatever it is, heart and soul of what I do is helping people help themselves to heal pain and step deeper into their personal power and their authenticity. Whether even a comedy video, they all, in my opinion, are meant to have a deeper message to promote people helping themselves heal and grow.
And I think it plays perfectly in with you spreading your message, because initially I think that's brilliant. That's a better mousetrap, because people are attracted to the humor, and then they can learn about who JP Sears is, right? But you have some other videos that are very seriously talking about healing and growth. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that example of mousetrap. That's just fun. But it's very true. Comedy is a universal language, the language of humor. I mean, no matter what someone's nationality is, what languages they speak or don't speak, we all understand laughter. We really do. So it's something that can touch the masses. And it gets people in the door. And that experience in and of themselves, laughing and maybe receiving a little bit of a deeper message, to me, there's great value in that. And it's just a beautiful bonus if that gets people in the door to discover, a deeper message, whether it's a sincere, serious video on how to heal depression, how to be authentic, whatever it is, how to heal a relationship. So it definitely allows, the comedy videos have been a beautiful outreach to help my message reach a lot more people than what I was reaching when I only did the serious side. So yeah, the serious side I'd been doing for about 13 years up until I started my comedy series, which was about 2 years ago. So it's like, well, okay, apparently comedy can reach a bunch of people.
Certainly. And what I was going to ask you is, right before you were thinking about releasing the comedy series, was there part of you that was like, this might hurt me, because professionally I'm a healer. I want to be seen as an authority, but if I pull this, funny or silly videos up, how would that do to me? Take me through that.
Yeah, well, actually, you read me like a book. Absolutely everything you just said was exactly what I was feeling inside, the self-talk. It was really the worst advice I ever gave myself. The advice that said, okay, JP, don't let your sense of humor come out on camera and in the professional setting, because people won't take you seriously. It'll discount the validity of the deeper work that you do. And I made up that story, and worse yet, I believed that story for a long time. And in truth, it took me a while of feeling essentially the betrayal of violating myself, not letting my humorous part come out. After enough time of betraying myself, I finally had the motivation to honor myself. It's like, okay, the pain of betraying myself, it's too much now. And I've hallucinated this pain, if you will, the pain that bad for business, bad for my reputation, if I allowed my humor to come out. Now, in all reality, it didn't work that way. The pain of that was just my imagination. And in my professional life, when people would get to know me before I was doing the comedy videos, they'd see my sense of humor. I mean, if someone's taking a 5-day long retreat with me or get to know me personally, my sense of humor comes out. But I was constricting it in many regards, and it just turned out that I couldn't have been more wrong with the value or valuelessness of the humor.
Right, because after that you just exploded, and then you gain so much more audience base, which is great.
Yeah, that'll teach me to listen to myself. Actually, in some regards, I should listen to myself a little better. In other regards, ignore the critical, self-imposed, limiting voices.
Right, and we all have those voices. I mean, loud and clear, right? That wants to bring me to this question. One of the videos you talk about forgiveness and how there's 2 levels to that. First one is forgiving other people, and then forgiving yourself. I'm just gonna butcher this. How about I just let you explain what true forgiveness really is? I think that's really important.
Sure. Yeah. My delusional point of view is that what true forgiveness is forgiving ourselves, period. And we might say, well, no, JP, the other person betrayed me. They cheated on me. They lied to me. So it's them that I have to forgive. And that would, forgiving the other person, that's what I would call the first step of forgiveness. It's very much a codependent dynamic where we essentially assign responsibility to the other person. Like, I feel hurt and it's your fault. And it's like, that's really what we're doing. And that's not really a bad step. I think it's an important step, but it's not where we want to land. The purpose of taking a step is to then get to the next step. And to me, the next step of forgiveness is going deeper and then learning how to forgive ourselves. How did we betray ourselves? The moment we trust another person who turns out to be untrustworthy, the story is they betrayed us. But I think the moment we trusted them, we actually went into a betrayal of ourselves. And it's very hard to get in touch with the anger at ourselves, the resentment we have towards ourselves. And in my experience, so many of us have shame towards ourselves. Shame that I was stupid enough to not see this coming. I mean, that's kind of how the voice sounds inside of my head, at least. So in that true forgiveness, forgiving of ourselves, that to me is where we take our power back. Because if we get stuck in the first step of forgiveness where, okay, well, I forgive you or I don't forgive you, but either way, we're giving our power away to another person. We're basically saying, you made me feel this way, and now I'm going to allow you to be whole again by granting you forgiveness. So to me, that's giving our power away. And I think true forgiveness is a very empowering step because we're reclaiming our power that we once lost. And the power basically says, I am the one that makes me feel how I feel. To blame someone else for that is a stage we all go through, but it's ultimately disempowering. If we need to stay stuck in the story that says, you are the reason why I hurt, then we're automatically assigning the responsibility of us feeling better to them. And that's very disempowering. It's putting our personal authority outside of ourselves. So if we all think of like our greatest grudge we've experienced, even if we've forgiven the other person at this point, it's so great, but still, then we can go back to it and say, okay, and what do I still have to forgive myself about in this experience? It's an important question, and one of the reasons why our minds sometimes don't like to address that is it forces us to not dwell in a place of victimization. I mean, when we're talking about what do I need to forgive myself about, it's impossible to stay a victim when we're adopting that mindset. But we get to stay a victim when we say, they did this to me, they hurt me, they're the reason why I hurt, why I lost my faith. So we stay a victim. And I don't, being a victim, it's an appropriate stage of pain and trauma and wounding. And I think we all know, looking at other people, and hopefully we can see it in ourselves too, because we've all done it, we can get stuck in being a victim. And being stuck in being a victim isn't a great place to be.
Wow, yeah, and the example that I would have for you is, I remember one time where I was in Peru with my friend, and then he cut himself in the jungle, right? He just cut himself, and he was so mad. He was so mad at himself, and I was like, bro, like, if I did this to you, you would have forgiven me in like 1 second. I didn't mean it. Sorry about that. And you'll be completely okay with that. But now, when it's him doing it to himself, he held on for like days. Why is that? Why are we so hard on ourselves? What is the underlying problem there?
Yeah, well, I think there can be a lot of reasons, but one of the big picture generalities that I see is a lot of us learn to get our emotional needs met by simply punishing ourselves. And oftentimes the fist of punishment comes through the emotion of shame. You know, we shame ourselves. I was so stupid, I cut myself. And we say, well, why would we get our emotional needs that way? Because it's painful. Why would we do that? And I think one of the reasons why we do it is a couple of reasons. First off, it's familiar. Monkey see, monkey do when it comes to human psychology. How we get our emotional needs met is typically a familiar pattern that we experienced other people treating us in our childhood. It may have been chronic treatment, or it could have been just like a one-time, usually traumatic occurrence if it was just one time. But at some point, we experience someone to either passively or actively treat us with punishment, or else we would have no way or no reference point to model the behavior within our own psyche. And I think a second aspect of it that's incredibly related to the first one is we get to feel like we're being paid attention to when we're being punished. So again, like, oh, it's so painful being punished. That's not a way of getting our emotional needs met. No, it's like, yeah, the attention we get when we're being punished, that's what gets our emotional needs met. Like, feeling good is just one side of how we get our emotional needs met. It might be functional, but we also learn usually powerful ways we can get attention through being defiant, through receiving punishment. And then, if that happened in our childhood, then here inside of our own psyches, part of us punishes another part of us. So it may not be an external person paying attention to us, but the part of our psyche that's dishing out the shameful self-punishment, by definition, is paying attention to the other part of our psyche that's being punished. And that part that's being punished feels like it's being paid attention to, because it is. It's another essentially cell within our psyche punishing our childlike cell in our psyche, if you will.
Wow, that's deep.
Well, we're complex creatures, in my opinion.
We are, certainly, because that's why pain sometimes is so addictive, because it provides you with this different type of attention, whether let's say you've been hit or you've been abused or you've been sick, even sickness. Sometimes I guess the person who is sick get certain type of attention, and they do not want to come out of that. They're willing to jeopardize their health just to get that feeling. It's a form of addiction, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I love that. And in the wisdom that I heard you speak, it basically points to, in my opinion, the reality that says people are willing to die in order to get attention. So self-sabotage, self-destruction. Are we willing to make ourselves sicker and sicker and sicker, more and more victim, have more and more pain, so that we can get attention from other people or attention from parts of our own psyche? And I think the reality is, one of the most painful experiences that a human can have is abandonment. That's one of the reasons why solitary confinement is a form of torture in prisoner of war camps, and it's why it's used as punishment in prisons. It's because it's very torturous to be disconnected from attention, and in that torture, that level of essentially emotional distraughtness, if that's even a word, that we get when we're experiencing a high level of abandonment, it can be so intense that at some level people say, it would be less painful to die. So whether that's choosing a quick death, unfortunately, through suicide occurrences, or a slow death through getting progressively sicker and sicker through chronic illnesses and ailments, with the secondary benefits you talked about, people do that. And I think the bottom line, I love telling people this because it usually makes everybody angry. So here's what I want to tell all you lovely listeners.
All right.
In my opinion, you are very needy. Welcome to the club of being a human being. Very rarely do people take you're needy. No, never does anybody take that as a compliment. Usually it's, why are you insulting me? It's like, I'm not. It's just like the most accurate observation I can ever have. You are needy. So we will get our needs met in one way or another. And I think part of the beautiful thing about like the stress reduction work you do, or any kind of legit healing work people do, is it's an empowering way to get our needs met differently. We'll get our needs met destructively or constructively. And if destructively is the best we've known how to do, we'll stick to that until we learn a better way. Real quick, I'll just add on to that. I'm getting a little rambly. But just to add on to that, recently I've had a chance to do some work with Tony Robbins. I just respect the guy. He's amazing. And from his point of view, he kind of boils it down to, we have 6 basic human needs. And he says that if a behavior, a belief, or a feeling meets 3 or more of those 6 basic human needs, we'll get addicted to it. We'll get addicted to the behavior, the belief, or the feeling. No matter how destructive it might be, we will get addicted to it if it meets 3 or more of our 6 human needs. And we can break any cycle. We've got to do a pattern interrupt, and that's why we would come in with intentional, empowering, like better ways to do it, if you will, better ways to pay attention to ourselves critically, or we can bring in a nurturing way to pay attention to ourselves.
Yeah, pattern interruption. And you know what? Humor is one of those pattern interruption too, I think. So props to you.
Well, thank you for that. And I agree. Humor is one way to do a pattern interrupt for sure.
So talking about needs, it kind of brought up something in me. Marshall Rosenberg, he talked about, he passed now, but he's a teacher of the concept of nonviolent communication. He said that anger is an unmet need. So when people come to you frustrated, they just want something, and it's your job, your responsibility to find out what that is so you can fulfill it and kind of dissipate that. So all in the same line of work.
Yeah, I love Marshall Rosenberg's work. I absolutely do. One of the things I would add on to it, and this is just my redheaded delusional opinion, when we have upset, anger, or whatever emotional distraughtness there is, I think today is the first time I've ever used the term emotional distraughtness. Use it twice in this conversation.
All right.
Feeling good, expanding my vocabulary with maybe invented words, I'm not sure. So anyway, when
you can trademark it.
TM is done. So when we have a level of some degree of being emotionally distraught, the idea that it's an unmet need, I definitely like that. I think it has a shadow side, though. And to me, the shadow side is if we have the unmet need, but we make an assumption that I need to go meet this need in order to be okay, especially if we just blindly think I got to do it codependently. Some of our needs will get met codependently, but I think it's ultimately disempowering to think I've got to meet all my needs from another person. I'm angry, therefore I have this unmet need, so I need you to do this for me. Please do it, or else I'm not going to be well, and it's going to be your fault. I see so many of us, including the redhead you're talking to right now, where we only will acknowledge our needs that we think can get met. So if there's a reasonable level of probability that one of our needs will be met, the need to be paid attention to is a huge one, then we'll let the need out. It's like, okay, it's safe to let this need come out, because it just feels like pure rejection when we have a need and then we express that need, we're honest with it, and the need doesn't get met. It feels like to the core of our being, we're being rejected. So I definitely like to challenge myself. I need to challenge more often, actually, and I like to challenge other people to do your best to be honest with your needs, even when they're just not going to be met. Because our emotional reaction, our stress response basically says, if this need doesn't get met, I'm going to die. Because we react with a stress response. But psychologically, we know, like, okay, I'll live if this need doesn't get met. I mean, our basic needs like water and food, like, yes, we will die if those don't get met. But most of the other ones, we're not going to die. We might be uncomfortable if they don't get met. So to me, it increases our level of vulnerability to be honest with our needs, even when they're not going to be met. And in fact, being honest only with our needs that will get met, that's not being vulnerable. It's being honest, but being vulnerable is taking the risk of, I have this need, dear loved one, or I have this need of myself, and I can see it's realistically not going to be met. But I've at least given voice and represented and therefore accepted the part of me that has this need, rather than shoving them into the basement of my subconscious because, I'm threatened by this part of me because he has a need that I'm judging probably won't get met. So I throw him in the basement, I'm disconnected from him. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox at this point.
Would you, by saying that, would you agree that by having an awareness of that needs, or at least shine it some attention, the effect of it not being met will kind of loosen the grip on you? Meaning, like, you kind of make that condition or that need less serious by addressing it, or at least like give it, I guess, of importance.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that for sure. I think secrecy secrecy creates a membrane of seriousness around emotions, around beliefs. So when we keep our needs a secret from ourselves, even that secret creates so much more seriousness. But just like you say, if we can speak it out loud, like, yeah, it can be a very important need, but I'm at least not taking it so seriously that I have to conceal it like classified government CIA information.
Yeah.
And those guys probably take their stuff pretty seriously. They're not going to be too playful with their info.
Oh, yeah. Like, why so serious? Like, we're all gonna die. I mean, that's the ultimate wisdom right there, folks.
For sure.
So, I want to ask you this. I was in Toronto 2 days ago attending this event called One Last Talk by Philip McKernan, an Irishman. Great guy, by the way. So the concept of this event is basically, if you're going to die tomorrow, what would be your one message or one talk to the world? And then we have 8 speakers, or 9, I don't remember, but they're all ordinary people. Most of them are successful businessmen and women that comes up and talk, and the main theme is around self-compassion. It's I guess they were at a point that they were so successful financially, but they were so disconnected to their heart or themselves that some people were suicidal, some people went into deep depression, and because I guess in this particular case, a lot of them were chasing something else and were completely disconnected to themselves, and that just shows me that, oh my God, that like the self-compassion or self-love is such a main theme, and this is the theme is one last talk. So if they were to die tomorrow, this is what they want to tell the world, is to love yourself more.
And that is a beautiful message, and part of what self-compassion means to me, it's very synonymous with the word connection. I think really compassion and love, it boils down to connection. And yeah, some would say the purpose of living our life is to live our life, not to go through the motions hoping for, okay, if I do 80 years of productivity, then I'll achieve some level of approval that'll fill me up from the inside. So yeah, we can do that. But I would dare say really the only thing that will fill us up from the inside is connection with ourselves. And of course, connecting with other people is a way to teach us how to become more connected with ourselves. So yeah, living our life, I don't think we really live our life unless we're connected to ourselves. And I think it can be very easy to just reactively assume, well, I'm alive, so of course I'm connected to myself. But I don't know about that. I think at a feeling level, Carl Jung said that our feelings are the language of our soul. So at a feeling level, how much do you actually feel your emotions, your body sensations? I mean, that's the biochemistry of connection right there. And if we roll into our deathbed when we're 80, 90, 100, 130 years old, whatever, and we've lived relatively void of our connection with ourself, that would be a bit of a scary look back. So yeah, maybe the purpose of our life is to live our life, and we can only live our life rather than surviving our life or going through the motions if we're truly connected with ourselves.
Yeah, certainly. Wow, I think we've covered some good grounds today. Question to you. I think oftentimes we're confusing, or we think that motivation requires an immense amount of self-criticism. And if I am self-compassion, I'm just gonna be kind of lazy and not get anything done. What do you have to say to that? Because sometimes I slip into that moment where, like, you know what? If I do that, I'm just gonna be on a couch all day.
Yeah, it's like the danger of, like, if I can just unconditionally accept myself the way I am, then why would I be motivated to get off the couch? Because I'm here being lazy, but I accept myself the way I am. Yeah, to me, compassion is half the equation. And, like, oh man, nothing, in my opinion, would ever take the place of compassion for ourselves. But the other part of the yin yang, if compassion is the yin, the yang is passion. So compassion and passion, to me, passion is ambition. It's realizing there's a reason why this life takes a long time. It's because I'm supposed to have an evolution of experiences. And compassion unto itself doesn't necessarily have call it the masculine energy motivation to spin through the array of experiences that we're supposed to have in this life. And then I think passion by itself, it lacks the sensitivity to really deeply and richly have the experience with any given stage of our life events or parts of our evolution. So yeah, to me, make no mistake about it, compassion is not meant to be synonymous with complacency or indifference. I think compassion married together with passion is a beautiful thing where we're inspired to grow. Some would say if we're not growing, we're dying. So we're inspired to grow. And to me, that inspiration to grow, it's not a self-rejection of, oh, if I don't grow and do more, achieve more, then I can't accept myself the way I am. No, it's like I accept myself the way I am, and therefore I have a healthy foundation to launch my inspirations from. Because I think passion with no compassion means we're always seeking to be more as a way of compensating for an inner void, a sense of inner lack inside, like I'm not enough, therefore I get very passionate to become enough, which means I'm doing this thing of always achieving more and more, and then we become the person with maybe tons of money and we hate our life. Tony Robbins, one of his things I just absolutely love is achievement without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And I think achievement is passion. Fulfillment is compassion. Having them both is potentially a richly lived life.
Wow, you sum it up brilliantly. That's
really good. Thank you. That boosts my self-esteem. That'll fill some inner voids for about 5 minutes. I'll take that compliment, brother.
Of course, right. So much to talk about, JP. I know we gotta wrap up here pretty soon. Do you have a ritual that you do, like as far as like practicing mindfulness or yoga? Like, what is your tool? Share some of that.
Yeah. So I have a voodoo doll dedicated to my ex-girlfriend, and my ritual is I take a pickaxe and every day I stab at it. Actually, my ex-girl, she's beautiful. We're still great
sounds
friends.
Like a great ritual that I should start.
Yeah, but the only thing that scares me is they say, like, in every joke there's some truth. And I have to sit with, what the hell might the truth be in that? Maybe hidden resentment. But yeah, there's a few rituals that are very important to me. One is a morning gratitude practice where I'm writing down 3 things I'm grateful for, and more importantly than just writing them down and thinking about them as I feel the gratitude very intentionally for about a minute on each item. And then I'll the second part of that ritual is I'll make notes 3 things that I'm creating. They might be ongoing projects. That might be just something small for that day. But to me, that's, hearing the compassion and passion thing, It makes sense. I think the gratitude is the compassion. That's the sensitivity and connection. And the creativity part of the ritual, that's the passion. It's the inspiration to create more. So that is a very important ritual. It's a small ritual, but it seems to be very instrumental in the formative part of my day, which is the morning. And you know how, like, our childhood experiences, like during our formative years, positive or the negative, can really influence us. I believe that the metaphoric childhood of each day is the morning. It's the formative part of the day. So just like what we experience in our childhood can really influence how we're living 30, 40, 50 years later, the afternoon, the evening of our day can largely be influenced by what we do and don't do in the formative part of our day. So that's an important part of my ritual. And then in the evening, I love to do just a simple 10-minute meditation, just a breathing meditation where I'm just noticing my breath go in and out. It's nothing fancier than that. Can't make money with that meditation. It's just described as not complex enough to try and charge for. And that ritual, I'm less than ritualistic with it. I'm a little bit more inconsistent with that evening ritual than what I'd like. Yeah, I guess that's an opportunity for compassion. Or maybe I'll just shame myself for that. Probably, maybe both.
There you go, right? So for me, it's a walk, like maybe a 15, 20-minute walk, just walking, like left, right, and just okay. There's a tree there, and feel the wind, and just kind of be, because I find that maybe sitting still is not so much for me. I used to do that for numbers of months, I guess, that just sit still for 30 to 60 minutes at times, and I feel like at the end, I'm tricking myself thinking, yes, I did it. I meditated today, and you know what? I should feel good about it. But like during the experience, it was just so like uncomfortable. But with the walking, I feel like I'm moving, and I feel great. So I guess we have to find our own sweet spot, right? So.
And you said it to me. The magical words are our own sweet spot. And I think what our sweet spot is can actually change. Like what serves you well right now might not so much be your sweet spot in a month from now. It used to be my mornings were the sit down and meditate, and now it's the gratitude, exercise. I also do a walk in the morning. So I'm finding that, similar to you, getting up and moving is my sweet spot right now. It used to be I hurry up and sit there for 20 minutes in the morning doing a meditation. And, there might be the change that comes along where it's like, okay, that becomes the sweet spot again. But I think it's so important for us to not even define what our sweet spot is. I think it's more important for us to discover what our sweet spot is. Great.
Now, with the client work that you do, is there like a basic exercise or some practical advice that you can share with us today? And I know that each person is different, and we all need different methods and things, and we have to clear a different path first, and we're all different. But is there one that you find effective that, if you want to start, how about just start here? And I think gratitude exercise is a great example. Anything else you want to share?
Well, there's a couple quick things that come to my mind. One is a journaling exercise where you write to the part of you that has pain. And so it's just like if you were addressing this part of you in front of you, whether it's pain from 5 years old, 10 years old, or yesterday. But can you communicate with that part of you compassionately and acceptingly? typically when there's a part of us in pain, we have the attitude, much like our parents often did towards us, we're afraid and we say, oh, you have nothing to be afraid of. That is so discounting. It very much rejects the part of us that's genuinely afraid right now. Part of our adult faculty says, there's nothing to be afraid of here. And that's so discounting to the inner child inside that is afraid. So to me, it's just like homeopathic medicine. Instead of fighting it, develop antibiotic resistance towards the pain, we embrace it. So, long story short, writing to the part of us with some degree of emotional pain or stress, with an attitude of acknowledgement and acceptance, period. Not trying to change it, not trying to make it go away, because I think doing that is typically resisting it, and just like you hit bacteria with antibiotics and they become stronger, antibiotic resistant. And then the last just quick thought would be a little bit of a mindset that anybody can use all the time. And that is the mindset that says there's a story under my story. So when we're upset or stressed, we have our story. Oh, I'm stressed. There's so much. I've got 97 things to do today, and I only have time to do 50 of them. And I've got my story. I'm stressed. There's too much to do, too little time. But that's just my story. What's the story under my story? If we stay stuck in the story, we're going to be relatively disconnected from ourself, our heart, and our emotions. We're in a state of essentially resisting them when we're stuck in the justification of our story. Why I have these emotions is usually just the story. The story under the story. If we just listen to our story and ask, okay, if that's just an illusion, what's a potential story under that story? And I might look at that, like my day today is like, I do have 97 things to do and only enough time for 50. But I don't think that's what it might have me stressed out. It might be, I'm afraid that I won't be enough. I'm afraid that people might feel disappointed in me. Now, if that's actually how I feel inside, there's a level of exhalation, a level of relief, maybe not complete relief, but a level of relief when we can simply have awareness of that and voice that, like, I am afraid. I'm going to let people down. Instead of being disconnected from it and thinking it's all about all these activities. No, what those activities mean to me is I might let people down if I don't do them all. So that's a level of honoring ourselves, accepting ourselves, and what our reality is. So looking for the story under our story, to me, is so important.
I agree. I think if you slowly examine them, you'll find that most of our stories are bullshit. That we tell ourselves, you're not good enough, you can't do this, you can't do that. Usually it's protecting you from something that, in fact, on the other hand, it can prevent you from achieving greater things as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think a story that limits our connection with something painful also limits our potential.
Yeah, because I heard this once where if you numb pain, you also numb happiness. So
I wish that wasn't true, but it definitely rings with truth to me, my friend.
All right, last question, JP, before we part. This is the Wellness Cafe, and I'm going to ask you, what is your definition of wellness?
It's a great question. My definition of wellness is connection, truly. I think when our mind and body are connected, including we're connected to our emotions as well, and we're connected to our families, we're connected to our friends, truly connected, not just superficial conversation, but truly connected. To me, that is wellness. I think it bends us into our, what maybe some would hypothesize as our original spiritual state, which is being in the field of oneness. So I think connection helps point us there rather than posturing ourselves in more separation, which seems to simply cause more suffering, be it physical, emotional, mental.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on. And you are at www.awakenwithjp.com, correct?
That would be true as far as I can tell.
Where can people find you and, your new book?
Yeah, well, I appreciate you mentioning that. My new book, it's going to be released early 2017, but it's available for pre-order on Amazon. It's called How to Be Ultra Spiritual. It's a comedy book and definitely has a deeper message in my biased point of view. You might read it and be like, oh, there's no deeper message here, JP. And then people can find me. All my social media handles are Awaken with JP. Just like my website. So feel free to connect with me there, or feel free to avoid me there if you find me offensive.
Yeah, just avoid him, but just buy the book.
That's absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much, JP, for coming on today.
Oh, you're so welcome, Jonathan. Thank you for having me, brother.